Hey guys, Lisa Figueroa here, board certified criminal defense attorney in Florida. Back to talk to you about the Alicia Andrews case with a big update about the appeals court ruling. Before we get to that, for those of you who don't know, this was the case involving a rapper named Julio Fulio who was gunned down in the streets of Tampa, Florida. Now there's a total of 5 co-defendants that were charged, and Alicia Andrews was the first to actually go to trial in this case. Even though she was charged with first-degree premeditated murder, the jury came back with a verdict of manslaughter. On the day before the verdict came out, the defense attorneys for Alicia Andrews filed a motion to disqualify the judge because they felt that throughout the trial, because the judge's actions over the course of several rulings and just her conduct during the trial gave them reason to believe that she was not fair. They filed a motion to disqualify the judge because they believe that her behavior, conduct, or comments during the trial are not allowing Alicia Andrews to have a fair trial at that time, and then potentially, if she was found guilty, would not give her a fair sentencing. So they actually filed a motion to disqualify the judge before the case was over. It was before it went to the jury for a verdict, which means while the trial was still going on. Immediately, the judge reviews it. In Florida, the way it works is the defense attorney files a motion to disqualify the judge if they believe there's grounds that the judge is not being fair in the case or cannot be fair and impartial in the case. They file the motion, and then the actual judge that you're complaining against is the one that reviews the motion to make a decision, yes or no, whether or not they should be removed. Now, they're supposed to just look at the 4 corners of that document, meaning what is put into that motion, and not take it personally, but whether or not a reasonable person would believe if these things happened, they could not get a fair trial, and then simply remove themselves, or they can deny it. In this case, Judge Cisco, the judge in the case, denied that motion. So the defense attorney had 2 options: either push forward, it was denied, we have to keep going with the same judge, or they had an option to file an appeal. Technically, it's called a writ of prohibition, going to the higher court, the appeals court, and saying, hey, we filed this motion, we don't believe that the judge can be fair in this situation, and the judge denied our motion. We believe that she was wrong in doing that. What do you guys think? And so that is filed with the appellate court. Alicia Andrews' attorney files that writ, and then they filed a motion to essentially stay or pause the proceedings in the lower court, meaning the case in Tampa, put that on hold until the appeals court makes a decision, kind of like in sports, having them review the call. And if you want more information about that process and actually what was filed, we have some other videos where I spoke on that specifically. Bottom line is, Alicia Andrews filed that writ of prohibition, asked them to stay the lower court proceedings to stop the case from moving forward until the appeal judges make a decision. And so they granted that, and they put everything on hold, and they gave the state a deadline and said, hey, you have this much time to respond. Let us know why we shouldn't remove the judge or agree with this motion writ that the defense put in. So the state responded, and again, if you didn't see that, we did a real thorough walkthrough of the state's response to this appeal. And then we also, if you hadn't seen it, they gave the defense an additional 15 days after the state responds to give any last words on it. And we also did a video about that and what their final reply was. We didn't know how long it was going to take for the appeals court to make a decision after everything was in. We did a video, let you know that it's all in the appeals court's hand, and now we're just waiting. Was it going to be a couple weeks, couple of days, couple months? We didn't know. Well, the answer is in today. I just got a copy of the order from the appellate court. Let's take a look. And it's real short, 1 paragraph. And basically, by order of the court, petitioner's petition for a writ prohibiting Judge Michelle Cisco from presiding further in circuit court case number, and it gave the case number, is granted, as the petitioner's motion to disqualify the judge filed in the circuit court is deemed legally sufficient. And then it cited a case. Accordingly, the chief judge, which is the chief judge in that circuit, shall immediately appoint a successor judge pursuant to Florida rules, and it gave the rule, and that the stay, which means the stop, like where they pause the case, pause the game, imposed by the court on December 5th is lifted. So now the lower court, the Tampa case, it can restart. But they're ordering the chief judge over there to appoint a new judge to now preside over what's left in this case, which is the sentencing. And it's a big deal because the sentencing judge is going to have a wide discretion about what they could order in this case. Now, I will point out that the appellate court, all they do is say that it was the motion that the defense filed is legally sufficient. So it's interesting because they choose their words wisely. Basically, you only needed a certain amount or threshold of evidence to get to another judge. They're not really commenting on Judge Sisko's conduct or statements or anything like that. They're just saying, hey, this is enough. It should be kicked over to a new judge. They don't cite any specific evidence. They don't tell us exactly it's this that really seemed out of line, or they don't even say that anything the judge did was necessarily out of line. They're just saying that what the defense attorney alleged in the motion is legally sufficient under the case law, under Franco. It's really, and really this is how it should work. When the motion is filed, it should have probably just been granted and removed initially and call it a day. But because the judge denied it summarily, basically didn't give it any weight, the appeals court now looked at it and said, look, it was enough on paper. It needs to be kicked to another judge. Now, is that good or bad? We don't know yet, right? And I guess it depends on what side you're on in the sense of what you believe about the facts of this case and the outcome of the case. But as we talked about in a prior video, she was found guilty of manslaughter. So the maximum sentence for manslaughter in Florida is 15 years. We also talked about the fact that there are firearms alleged in this, but because she was not the actual shooter, she did not possess a firearm, her maximum possible sentence is 15 years in prison. She will get credit for every day that she's spent in jail since her arrest in this case, which my understanding is she's been in the whole time. And the court is able to consider a pre-sentence investigation because it's her first time. We talked about this in a prior video as well, but basically probation can interview her and they can put forth a recommendation to the judge. And now the judge can do anything from as low as probation if they believe that there is grounds for downward departure. In Florida, you can downward depart. The judge can go below the lowest permissible sentence. There's like a score sheet or guidelines. And anytime there's someone that is killed or dies in a case, you usually score about around 10 or 11 years in prison. So that's going to be the minimum a judge could sentence her to unless they find reasons to downward depart. And I would imagine and expect that Alicia Andrews' attorneys are going to argue for a downward departure. She was an accomplice under the state's theory, and her role was minimal compared to the other individuals that were involved, and therefore that's one of the basis for a downward departure. There's probably a couple of others that might fit as well. So I anticipate that they're going to ask for that, and the judge could give Alicia Andrews as much as 15 years, which I imagine the state is going to be asking for her to be sentenced to the maximum. As far as when the judge is going to be assigned or when the next judge is going to be assigned, it kind of depends. There's no way to know exactly, but given the backdrop of this case, I would anticipate that they are going to move it as quickly as possible, but obviously they're juggling other judges' schedules. I am not sure what goes into selecting it. Is it based on the docket? Is it based on experience? But I would expect that we would know shortly who the judge is that's going to be assigned, and then they're going to have to schedule it. The scheduling of the actual new sentencing date will have to be coordinated between the state and the defense, and so we'll just update you guys when we know, but I expect that it will be coming soon, probably I'd say certainly within the next 30 days, we should know something as to the new date, even if they're not able to get it set by then. And we'll be back with an update as soon as we have one, and we'll certainly be keeping tabs on this case to see what the final outcome is going to be, who the new judge is, and that what ultimately ends up happening. So that's it for now. We just have to wait and see. Okay, as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated. Take care.